So Sharon, it's so great to have you here. And thank you so much for being willing to share your journey. I know it's going to help all the women who watch.
I'm so
And
happy to be here. Yeah. Thank you
yeah,
for inviting me, Priya.
yeah. So, before we am looking at my notes on my other computer. So before we get into your story, tell me a little bit about who you are. We just know
Sure.
your name, Sharon O'Connor,
Okay.
apart from your cancer journey, just share a little
Yeah.
bit about yourself.
Sure. I grew up in Western New York and I live currently in the Binghamton area. I'm married to Tom. He's a corporate life coach and professional athletic chaplain within the Mets organization. And myself, I have a background in marketing and development in Christian higher education. Then I went and managed a medical office, an OBGYN office for 13 years.
Mhm,
And now I am the church secretary. I sort of retired after a very busy time, in part because of my journey that I've gone through with
mhm,
cancer. I needed a little
mhm,
bit of a change, and
mhm,
I love it because it gives me flexibility to do other things I love, such as my community trying to encourage women with hope
mhm,
who are
mhm,
walking
mhm,
through or come through cancer. We
mhm.
have 2 grown daughters, 4 grandkids, one on the way,
Oh my
and
goodness.
we're busy, but it's a great
Yeah,
time of life. We're
yeah,
very blessed and happy.
yeah. Are your kids close by?
They are. They're within 15 minutes, 2 daughters and their husbands, and they keep us busy, but that's a good
Good.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So, um, my question was, what made you say yes to
yeah,
sharing your story? But you've already
sure.
told that
Yeah,
you want to help and encourage, right?
yeah. It's been 13 years since I've been
Hmm.
cancer free, so I'm very
Hmm.
grateful for that. And I'm an aging cancer survivor, and
Hmm.
I want to share things. I wrote through the experience, did a lot of blogging. I'm not a medical provider, but I'm someone who's walked through some challenges. And I just
Hmm.
feel a desire to share that and pray that
Hmm.
God will bless it to encourage someone else along the way. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So, walk us back to the moment you first knew something was wrong. What
Sure.
were the early signs, if you had any?
So the odd thing was I had no idea how sick I was. And I simply went in, I was turning 40, it was 2010, and my
Hmm.
OBGYN who'd taken care of me since I was 20 said, "Hey, let's just get a baseline ultrasound. You're getting older and this will help going into menopause
Hmm.
eventually." And I said, sure. And when they got done, they were kind of quiet and they said, "Are you having pain anywhere?" So they saw
Hmm.
something. It was about 5 centimeters, but they couldn't figure out what it was attached to. I had no pain. Looking back, I was very tired. I had been through a
Hmm.
tremendous amount of stress in my job,
Hmm.
and I was tired. So she said, "Let's bring you back in a month and let's watch it." Well, in that
Hmm.
month, I had more stress in my job, a huge event that we were handling, and I was stressed out of my head. Stress is an awful thing,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
especially when you don't handle it well. And when I went back, it had grown 2 more centimeters, whatever this thing was. She referred me to, I would have started having problems soon. So it's
Hmm.
probably a good thing she offered that. Although I joke with her and say, "I'm not coming back to you for any more ultrasounds." but but I did. And that sent me to a surgeon, a consult, and that started the journey.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, what was going through your mind after your diagnosis? Because
Yeah.
I just know a little bit of, I had a biopsy,
Yeah.
what's going into our mind, but what was
Sure.
going through your mind because you had it?
Yeah. My path, I went to see the surgeon and he talked about, we're going to do exploratory surgery.
Hmm.
They thought it was a benign fluid filled cyst. And so
Hmm.
that was the hope. I'll be out of work 6 weeks. I
Hmm.
just never dreamed that I would wake up with a stage 3 colon cancer diagnosis. He took out, I think, 16 inches. The mass was starting to come through the wall on the left side.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I woke up with a colostomy bag. And so
Hmm.
I was in the hospital 7 days. It was just beyond anything we expected, and
Hmm.
it was a very difficult time. So
Hmm.
it was very, very hard.
Hmm.
God was
Hmm.
gracious, and I won't say there wasn't peace, and I
Hmm.
my trust is in God, and that's my hope, but that doesn't mean we don't go through hard things.
Yeah,
And this was
yeah.
a very, very difficult thing for myself, my
Hmm.
husband, our daughters were in junior high. It's very difficult.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And when it happens to mom, it's
Yeah.
much harder
Yeah. And I could
because
see, yeah, you're right.
you're the glue who's holding everything together. And then
And the glue fell apart. And
I know.
the glue was out of commission. And even when I got home, it was a open surgery. So I was opened up. I had a lot to deal with just to recover. And I was on pain medications and just kind of out of it. I tell my girls and my husband, I feel like I missed a year of their lives. And we were all just trying to keep it together. But within that, God took care of us in the sense my mother-in-law had moved in with us 2 months before. We bought a new home. Like there was a number of things that I was just like, okay, that's why you had this happen, Lord. And
Yeah.
it didn't make what I had to walk through fun, but there day by day there was provision and grace and help and hope. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you tell the people? So when you got the diagnosis, was it like just you got it? Was your husband with you?
Yeah. So when the surgeon came and talked to my husband after the surgery, I was in an ICU and I was there, I think I said 7 days or so. And they knew before I did, of course. And so I had a number of family. My parents had come, my sister, I had some brothers there, my husband, my kids, my mother. There's a number of people in that waiting room. And again, this is 2010, so you can have a lot of family. And so they found out before I did. And it was, again, it was just, I was kind of like out of it, but enough in it to realize, okay, I have a problem and I just have to go one day at a time. And it was hardest, I think, for my husband and daughters. And they knew before I did. And a friend, my husband was feeding me ice chips in the hospital, and a friend came and said, I'm so sorry. And it wasn't until that friend said it, she didn't know I didn't know yet. So the second time it came back a year and a half later, and that time I was more conscious, aware, and I was able to tell our kids, and it was a different experience, but I'm jumping ahead. Yeah.
So looking back, is there anything you wish someone had told you in those first few weeks?
I think in hindsight, which we always say hindsight, 2020, I think leading up to that point, I wish I'd listened to my body more and been better at not taking on things that, I was, as I keep saying the word stress. There's things I should have probably listened to in my body ahead of time. And when it happened, again, I had to make a decision about, there's medical treatment. I knew the possibility of juicing and raw foods, but I was so far down the path. You just have to make the best decision you can. And that's what we did. We followed the medical advice and went through treatment. So I lost the point that you were trying to make with that question. Can you remind me what the question was?
Something you wish someone had told you.
I wish they had said you have time to make decisions and you can look at options, because I think a lot of times we feel we've got to fight, we've got to rush, we got to get a plan, which we want humanly. And so that's what I would have thought, is someone say you have time to look at options. But medically, they aren't trained in anything. Medicine saved my life in a crisis. Eventually, nutrition is what helped. And it just wasn't something that I considered at that time. I wish I had.
I think what I'm hearing is it would be good if the doctors were coaches as well.
Yes. However,
right?
Again, they're trained in medicine, right? And again, I want to be respectful. I managed a medical office, but my boss had gone through her own cancer journey and used juicing and raw foods. So I even that, I see the Lord's hand, and I knew that there was other options. I cried for 2 weeks about the treatment not being offered, and we went for a second opinion to a major cancer center, agreed with what was going to happen, and they said, you're young enough, we're going to clobber you, you should never deal with this again. We'll come back to that statement. But there's things you just don't know until you walk through it, and then you learn to ask questions and do things differently, and you make a decision and go forward the best you can.
And there are certain cancers which are very aggressive, and you really don't have time to be doing research.
Yes. And that's where the doctors, they're trying to take care of me and say, we have to, we're being aggressive, let's deal with it. Some cancers I think all cancers benefit from nutrition. Again, not trying to treat, diagnose, or cure. from my
Mhm.
personal experience, I learned in a lot of reading and research, and the plan I ended up following the second time,
Mhm.
that colon cancer is one of the ones that responds best to lifestyle changes, diet,
Mhm.
rest. So colon cancer that I had
Mhm.
responded very well to the path that I chose the next time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So what did the treatment look like for you day to day?
Sure. The first time, so January 2011, they let me heal up a little bit. I had a chest port. They did 6 weeks of the treatment. So the first and the sixth week, I had the chemo on for
Mhm.
a whole week, and I wore a port. I had the port in it. I carried the pack with the chemo, and then all 6 weeks I had radiation treatment, and that
Mhm.
was once a day. My husband, God bless him, drove me to the cancer center. I did the radiation, went
Mhm.
home, and at the end of that, I was very fatigued. And
Mhm.
again, they're trying to save your life, and
Mhm.
all I can say is at the end of it, it was not pleasant, and
Mhm.
it probably was a blessing that I had the colostomy bag, because that spared me maybe some of the challenges people would have. But it was very difficult, and I was I was pretty beat up by the time the treatment
Mhm.
was done. Yeah.
Mhm. So with the radiation,
Yes.
how long was each treatment?
I think it wasn't long, maybe 10 minutes, 15 by
Okay.
the time they get you on
Okay.
the table. And of course, they prep you with um, shaping a mold that you lay in, and you're very
Mhm.
still. Then they walk out of the room and the treatment happens.
Mhm.
I don't think it was more than 5 or 10 minutes on the actual table. It was very
Oh,
brief.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
years ago, I knew of someone from our church
Mhm.
who went through radiation, and now this is like in the
Yeah.
90s. And she, whatever the radiation was like, they told her, like, they did not allow any family to come near her because, like,
Yeah.
she was
Oh,
emitting. And she
sure.
had a Bible next to her. They're like, you cannot keep this Bible.
Interesting. That was not part of the dialogue. So
Yeah.
I think
Well,
perhaps
it may
that's
have been
changed.
a longer treatment, maybe not 10,
Could be.
15 minutes, maybe
Maybe it was less.
I
Yeah.
don't remember what cancer she had or anything, but
Yeah. And it could
yeah,
have changed, and it could have just been different. That's very interesting.
yeah, yeah. And of course, that was so many years before you had yours. So
Yes.
medicine has advanced, and
Yep.
maybe they can really target even more, and
Yeah.
protect the rest of you,
Yes.
right?
I think,
And
well, in the second,
not make you radioactive.
radioactive, right. You might have effects long term yourself, but it doesn't affect
Yeah,
other people. And the
yes.
second time, it was a more targeted treatment. So again, jumping ahead. But yeah, it was different the
Hmm.
second time, which I didn't know you could do it 2 times. I'm not recommended, but
Okay.
we did. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So second time also you did your surgery, chemo, and radiation.
The second time, the day that I went in, it was October 1st, 2012, and I was starting the new job as medical manager for my OBGYN.
Hmm.
And I'll breeze in and get the CT scan results because I'd been good for a year, just
Hmm.
over a year. And I was reconnected. I had ostomy, ileostomy, the takedown
Hmm.
surgery, treatment finished, all of that. So I walked in, and the oncologist said, he didn't call it stage 4 that day, but you have stage 4 cancer. It's returned. You have a mass shutting down your left kidney. I want you to start full chemo. I want you to get a permanent colostomy, and I want you to get a kidney stent. And I was angry. I mean, I can't blame him. I was angry at the situation. And I
Hmm.
sat there
Hmm.
and I said, there might be other options. What if I want to do juicing and raw food? And he said, I've seen how that goes before, and it's not good. I said, well, I was trying to buy time, and I just said, I'm
Hmm.
not making any decision today. Now, they
Hmm.
weren't happy with me, but I had made a decision in my heart and mind. I know where I'm going when I leave this world, and my
Hmm.
hope is not in putting myself through grueling treatment again
Hmm.
because of what I've gone through. That's just my personal decision. Everyone
Hmm.
has to decide that for themselves, and I have a
Hmm.
piece that I'm happy to share with anyone if they want to talk. But that shaped my decision making, and this time I opened the books that my doctor friend had given me. It was a stack. There was
Hmm.
books,
Hmm.
DVDs. And my husband driving away, he said, "Do you want to go home? You're supposed to start work." And I said, "No, they're expecting me." In hindsight, maybe that would have been good. But anyway, um, but this time I was conscious. I didn't wake up with all kinds of wounds and tubes and pain. And I finally, my family gave me the best gift, starting with my husband. He said, whatever you choose to do, I will support you.
Mhm.
And the first time it was fight, 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 which people love you. They want you to fight, and that's
Mhm.
okay. But sometimes fighting is resting. And really, I cried out to God in the kitchen. And that week, I said, please don't let me die from this.
Mhm.
And again, I could go home tomorrow. I could have gone home. But why am I still here? That I can't answer. I'm grateful.
Mhm.
But in my heart and mind, I said, I'm going to do everything I can to decide what is best for me. So for 3 months, I followed that nutritional protocol. And I dove into the DVDs, and it was a book. And when you started the book, you think, oh, I want the recipes in the back. There was a big stamp, and it said,
Mhm.
if you start here without reading the front of the book, you will not get well. Now that was kind of in your face, but her point was, read the front of the book, because it really walked you through why you were making this decision, the ramifications of things. I ended up having a blood clot. We went to Sloan Kettering for a second opinion in this journey
Mhm.
of deciding what to do. They found a blood clot, and in that book, she said, if you're on a blood thinner, I had to take a blood thinner injection, but thankfully, if I'd been taking a pill form of blood thinner because of that clot, I couldn't do the juicing and raw foods. So
Mhm.
even there, I saw God's mercy, even though I was like, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
eventually, 3 months, I did 3 months of that while going through testing. We finally agreed, okay, we'll go to Sloan Kettering for a month of modified. They called it more modified and targeted on the mass, as
Mhm.
well as the chemo pill. And I was fearful and in tears, but I went armed with nutrition, supplements, books, and I didn't ask. But I
Mhm.
had done a lot of research. So there's
Mhm.
many things I did to support. And then after that, I went back to the juicing and raw foods protocol and key supplements for almost
Mhm.
2 years. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So,
Personal.
I'm just wondering because I've not had colon cancer, but I've had a third of my colon
Yeah.
removed. And I have a friend here who had colon cancer. She
Sure.
also had part of her colon removed. She cannot, like initially for me, I had to be on a very, very, what they call low residue diet,
Yes.
right?
Same.
No fiber, right?
Yes.
She is still, well, after that, it's been 2.5 years, well, almost 3 years since the surgery.
Oh,
And I found that, I was more sensitive to certain foods. And if
for
I have
sure.
too much fiber, that causes problems. And this friend who had the colon cancer, she said
Mhm.
she cannot have too much fiber.
Oh
And
boy.
if she
Yeah.
has vegetables that we really, really well cooked, and like,
Yeah.
she's like, I just can't eat just broccoli. It has to be
Yeah.
just like
Yep.
like she can't have broccoli salad. So
Yes.
with your
100%.
raw foods and all, you didn't have a problem with that?
So interestingly, I didn't know if I would or not. And that was what was wild is, yes, I'm missing, I think, 16 to 20 inches of colon. So I
Hmm.
can have some issues, and I can have some control issues. I'm just gonna be blunt.
Hmm.
That's common with colon cancer,
Hmm.
especially if they reconnect things. I started out with a low residue diet.
Hmm.
The juicing takes the fiber out. So the
Hmm.
juicing, you're just getting the juice. And I did a lot more cooked food as opposed to everything raw. So I
Okay.
modified it because of what I'd been through. I also did some things like using bentonite clay. I would
Hmm.
drink, again, my choice, I would drink it
Hmm.
before bed at night in hopes it would draw out radiation, help slow things down. And there's also a protocol that I found from MD Anderson using Metamucil. You
Hmm.
put eight ounces of water, sorry, instead of 8 ounces of water, usually they do that in a teaspoon. You do 2 ounces of water, teaspoon of the fiber. You drink that right after you eat, and it grabs the food and slows things down. So there's things I thank goodness found to do to help. But yeah, I can have some issues. I definitely prefer more cooked, but I can eat a good
Hmm.
salad and be okay. It
Hmm.
depends. If I eat dressings or things with inflammatory oils, I'm in
Hmm.
trouble. And if I don't
Hmm.
eat fried food, I don't, there's some things I don't do. But interestingly enough, I can eat a lot of healthy things and be just fine. So I pay
Hmm.
for it when I want to have a treat sometimes. But yeah, for those two
Yeah.
years, I did not waver from that. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
I wish your friend well, and you as well. It, you have to figure out what works for you.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What surprised you most about your body during this time, physically or emotionally?
Surprised me how our bodies are designed to heal.
Hmm.
And of course, again, when you wake up from a surgery, you're thinking, oh, please let it heal. And it did, even though I had a lot of challenges. But especially the second time when I was reading about and trying to put into practice things to help my body heal, it's very interesting. It's how we were designed. And when you
Mm-hmm.
take the toxic load off the liver so the liver can function and heal, your body handles things better. Does that mean
Mm-hmm.
it's going to do that every time for everybody? I can't say that. But I
Mm-hmm.
learned in this journey that our bodies are pretty amazing. And yes, we can
Mm-hmm.
have challenges, but if you remove a lot of the toxic load, our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
was,
They are. They
yeah.
are.
And that was interesting to put into practice, not just read it and say, oh, that's
Yeah.
nice. Please
Yeah.
let it
Yeah.
be what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is totally a segue, but,
Yeah.
um, about our bodies being fearfully and wonderfully made. When I was in my second master's in studying exercise science, so I'm
Yeah.
in the clinical exercise physiology class, and we're learning about how the muscles work. So there's a theory which they have. So a theory is not, as we say in lay terms, oh, that's a theory. It's
Yeah.
like a hypothesis. But when they talk about a theory, that means there's certain things have been proven, actually. It's a
Sure.
scientific theory. So it's
Okay.
called the theory of the sliding filament theory.
Hmm.
And look it up on YouTube, see if you can find a video.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh my goodness. I went around telling people, I'm like, do you know about this? I had never heard it. So I was like the 45, 46-year-old woman in the class. All my classmates were half my age. And they were just like, let's study all of this stuff all the time. For me, it was like
Yeah.
new. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. And I'm like, I knew we were fearfully and wonderfully made. I
Yeah.
just didn't know we were that fearfully
Yeah.
and wonderfully made.
It's amazing. Oh, that's awesome. They probably got a kick out of that. That's
So,
great.
so I know this has to be true, but did you feel like ever giving up? Did it feel unbearable?
Mhm.
And how did you move through that?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I never felt like I'm going to give up. Like
Okay.
it wasn't part of my thinking, although I realized I could die, like I was dealing with something that could take my life. I had hope and I had motivation to say, wait a minute, especially the second time, I'm being proactive and have something I can do. And when you have that, it helps take away the feeling of despondence and despair. In fact, God bless my younger daughter, she got mad at me because my kitchen counter is covered with juices and all this stuff. It took me a half hour to get ready to go out the door with everything for the day because I was still working. And for a time, I ended up taking 4 months off after the treatment. But and she got upset, Mom, you're not doing what they're telling you to do. And she goes, you're not doing anything, as kitchen's covered with all this stuff and books. And I'm like, honey, I am awake. I'm able to function. My body's in one piece. It wasn't the first time. I'm not letting go of this without a big fight. But we kind of laugh and say, do you realize everything I was doing every day? I was doing a ton, but it made her nervous. And I had to decide that, I didn't feel like giving up, but a lot of that was because of having hope, of having assurance that if my life doesn't come through this, I will be okay for eternity. I understood that. But it also gave me a reason to want to fight and say, you know what? I have some tools here. Let's see what happens. And it gave me a little more courage than fear. But
And
the
I
fear
think
was
having those young children was probably a big motivator.
yeah, absolutely. And my heart goes out. My daughter had a friend this is a side note, but she had a friend who's same age, and her mom had a recurrence of breast cancer, and she passed away. I'm coming out of it. She passed. I don't know why that happens, but you are right. That gave me a big motivational factor for myself to say, what can I do here that God might use differently?
Okay. Where are my questions? So, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place.
You're fine.
So who or what kept you going on the hardest days?
Some days it was just getting through, especially the first time when I was so beat up and sick. And it was my family. and my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, because again, I've kind of touched on that, but
Mm-hmm.
I just realized, okay, I felt like I was strapped into something, that how did
Mm-hmm.
I get here and how do I get out of this? And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it was just, okay, I would wake up in the morning, figure out how to position myself, and I'd think, oh no, there's a whole day ahead. And I'd make my way holding the wall, get down to the kitchen, get a banana, sit on the couch, sit with my husband, and just be so relieved when nighttime came in the very early
Mm-hmm.
stages, because I just couldn't wait. All right, if I go to bed, I can go to sleep and forget this nightmare. But there was
Mm-hmm.
a process. There became a routine every day, and routines help. Just you have,
Mm-hmm.
it's finding your way. And I had people in my life that encouraged me, and that made a
Mm-hmm.
big difference in giving me hope and helping when I wasn't able to really say, rah,
Mm-hmm.
rah, I'm feeling great. Because there's many days I did not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just,
Mm-hmm.
it was a day
Mm-hmm.
by day thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, how did this experience change the way you see your body now?
I think it's pretty amazing, even though it's pretty beat up still. I kind of joke, with my husband, and it's carried me through a lot. So as much as, oh, I'd love to look a certain way and I could stand to lose probably 20 or 30 pounds, at the same time, I'm in good health. Yes, I'm on a couple of medications, mainly for blood pressure, some other things you and I have chatted about. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm very thankful. I have some age-related things happening. I found out in December, along with the blood pressure issue, my left kidney doesn't function because of the
Mm-hmm.
radiation. But you know what? My right one does. So just,
Mm-hmm.
it's made me realize I have to take care of my body. And I'm not always
Mm-hmm.
perfect. I like a hot
Mm-hmm.
fudge sundae now and then, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, I could do better in areas, but I'm grateful because it's carried
Mm-hmm.
me through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, again, just reiterated how much potential there is for our bodies to heal when given the
Mm-hmm.
right, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm. So, is your blood pressure related to chemo?
They didn't say that. And for a long time, I'm not the best person about going to doctors, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it had been growing. I didn't even know it was that bad until I went for something different. And they said, hey, you have an issue. And I don't know if there's a medication that I tried
Mm-hmm.
short term that impacted that, because I
No,
never had
so
very many issues.
I know when I was in grad school and I was
Yeah,
in the clinical exercise, because I was in the clinical track. So
sure.
we, of course, studied about all
Cool.
of these different things.
Yeah.
And that with cancer, it's not the cancer, it's the
Yeah.
chemo, which is the killer,
Chemo.
and
Did they?
how,
Right.
the chemo has all these impacts on, and I don't remember all the terms, but
Oh,
how
yeah.
it actually can cause high blood pressure.
And do you know, were they saying that was when you were taking it or long term?
I think it was long term.
Well, and that would not surprise me, because I read other things. When you leave, I remember asking the oncologist, is there any long-term ramification? Because I've read even
Hmm.
radiation could cause,
Hmm.
and he said, no, only a small percentage. And, I know he was giving the best information, but I feel like you leave and you're not, it's up to you to, hey, what's going to happen 13 years down the road? I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
am dealing with some of that kind of thing.
Hmm.
How much, I don't know, but I'm just going to try and do my best to do what I
Hmm.
need to manage it. And yeah.
Well, my experience has been doctors don't know everything.
This is
They
true.
don't have the experience. I have found out so many things from people who've gone through the same journey, much more than I've got from doctors. In
Yeah.
fact, after I had one of my leg surgeries,
Yeah.
one of my friends came to visit me. She'd had a hysterectomy, and
Hmm.
she's like, Priya, you and I need to write a book about what to expect after surgery, because the
Oh
doctors
yeah.
don't tell you.
No, they don't go through it. They don't go through
Yeah,
the
I
chemo
mean,
and
like one of
typically.
my leg
Yeah.
surgeries, and I'm like, okay. He said it's going to take 3 months. Well, 3 months is fast. I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
still in the pain. "Oh, well, you know what? It was. We cut through all of these muscles. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Well, give it another couple of months, and like another couple of months have passed. I'm like, okay,
Oh
it's
yeah.
still going on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they only know in theory. They don't know the
Yeah.
real thing.
Yeah. And they're not taught nutrition. And again, I want to be careful. If there's doctors in your group, I'm grateful for medical care. I'm grateful
Mm,
for wisdom in that. But
yeah.
and what I didn't like was medicine poo-pooed the nutrition, and nutrition thought medicine was just, I think there's a place for both. But you
Mhm.
and I, as the patient, choosing that have
Mhm.
to decide and be aware that there's ramifications to what we choose, and they
Mhm.
don't always know
Mhm.
what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did this change your relationship with control or with doing everything right?
Mm. I'm a pretty laid back. I'm the fifth child. I'm the youngest. I'm pretty laid back. My
Okay.
husband is
Okay.
a detail guy, and I like what it did was force me into realizing I had more control than I thought when I felt helpless. And then you realize you can only control so much. So it's a
Mhm.
weird balance of, yes,
Mhm.
if there's things I did step into, you know what, if I can control this and prevent this and this. For instance, I saw a world-renowned surgeon in the city who was talking to me in case they needed to go in and do surgery the
Mhm.
second time on
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
mass. And my husband,
Mhm.
God bless him, said, "What do you think about that carrot juice she's drinking?" Because this was during the 3 months when I was doing all kinds of
Uh-huh.
stuff, but going through tests. And she said she laughed. She was surrounded by students in white coats, and I know they have the best of intent to help me.
Uh-huh.
That's good for horses. That's not going to help her cancer. And they were all laughing. So I'm laid back, but I'm competitive. And I said, all right, game on. And so by the grace of God, I never needed to see her again. The following May, they did a PET scan. I had gone for treatment in January, and they wanted me to go see her, but I had no reason to see her. And they said, your mass has shrunk by 80 to 90%. And they took 3 days to call me back. I was really
Mhm.
nervous. And they said, it looks so clean. They thought a doctor had done surgery on it. I said, well, there's a heavenly doctor that did some surgery on it. But that was after going back to the juicing raw foods. And again, I did target radiation,
Mhm.
but did
Mhm.
what I did help allow that to work better? I don't know. That
Mhm.
was my goal,
Mhm.
and protect my body. I said, well, they said, we can go in and take that out if you want us to. And I said, "Well, you learn to ask. So what's the ramification if I say yes to that surgery?" Well, probably a permanent colostomy due to nerve damage. And I said, no, I'm going to keep right on going. Thank you. And so August, I went back and the mass was gone. And that's been the status by the grace of God since 2030.
Mhm.
But you
Mhm.
just,
Mhm.
so how much control? You control what you can. And I could say
Mhm.
yes and no to certain things in there. And I did.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and even whether we're looking at cancer, anything, just looking at life and health, we can do everything in our power to
Yeah.
take care of ourselves. But I believe there are no guarantees in life.
That's right. God is the one that knows. I think
Yeah.
he, we can apply what he tells us about
Mhm.
what he'll do and apply his promises.
Mhm.
This is how I think. And we can apply the nutrition. You can still have it turn out the way you don't want,
Mhm.
right? We're all
Mhm.
going to deal with death someday. But yeah, it's just very interesting because
Yeah,
we don't know.
and you don't know. I might go out tomorrow and be in a huge car wreck and
Yeah,
become a quadriplegic. So there's
exactly.
no guarantee in life, but
That's
the
right.
only thing we can do is do our part.
That's right. You're right.
And
I like
and sometimes, they say genetics and environment. In some
Mhm.
situations, you can override genetics with
Yes.
your the environment or your
Yeah.
behaviors. But
Yes.
sometimes the
So you have to
genetics
do
are
it.
just too high, them too much, and you
Yes.
can't.
You're
But
right.
but in those situations, maybe your outcome is still better than if you hadn't been taking care of yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe you can
So
alleviate some of the things that even though you
yeah,
can't change it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So um, a lot of women in this group, they feel like their bodies are betraying them in
Yeah.
midlife, and not just in this group, but in general, this age group. They feel like they've been betrayed.
Yeah.
Even without a cancer diagnosis. What would you
Sure.
say to a woman who feels that way?
Be gracious with yourself and realize we've had a whole lifetime to get to this point.
Hmm.
And there's so many things I think that we're exposed to environmentally. There's so many things we deal with, even the nutrients in our soil where our food comes from. There's so
Hmm.
many things that impact. You have to be gracious with yourself. And it kind of goes back to the control what you can.
Hmm.
Our bodies, we're supposed to age. Does
Hmm.
that mean we
Hmm.
have to go through all the stuff we do sometimes? It's so discouraging. I mean, I've gained more weight than I'd like to right now. There's things
Hmm.
that frustrate me, and that's a very general thing that I'm sure there's more
Hmm.
specifics. But I just think we have to be gracious with ourselves and
Hmm.
make the effort where we can again, have some kind of impact or control. And
Mm-hmm.
some things you got to just give yourself grace and realize
Mm-hmm.
I'm alive. I can enjoy
Yeah.
my family and enjoy this day and take
Mm-hmm.
a walk or help someone, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's not perfect. And maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important to have gratitude. Gratitude is a
Yes.
huge, huge thing.
Yeah.
And as you said, having grace and, developing that thing of love,
Yeah.
self-love,
You're
not
right.
the narcissistic, but the other kind of,
Yeah.
where we're not looking at our bodies and saying, ew, that looks
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very easy to be like that, but, uh, you know, it's, it's like we do want to, I do
Mhm.
want to look good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And but there is like for myself, there's certain things because I've had this major um, pelvic floor reconstruction.
Yeah.
There are many
A
exercises I'm
lot.
not supposed to do, related to
Mhm.
core. The doctor actually recently I saw him in June, and he's like, you should not be lifting more than 30 pounds. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
I crossed that a long time ago. you know,
Oh, boy.
it's,
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
but I still have to be really careful because I
yeah.
always have that fear that it
Yes.
may come back. If I'm not careful, it
Yeah.
can come back.
That's true.
And so, just living within your limitations,
Yeah. And what
right?
does strong and healthy look like for me or for you might be different than a professional
Ex-
athlete, but let's be strong
exactly.
and healthy to the best of our
Yeah.
ability. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not about comparing ourselves, and
Yeah.
forget about the athlete, but what's strong and healthy for you
That's
might be
right.
different than what it's for me,
Yeah.
right? So we have our individual differences, but
Yeah.
it's a matter of doing the best that we can,
I agree.
without getting obsessive.
Right. Make the effort, but then you got
Yeah.
to rest and find peace with, you know,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, because it's easy. In fact, I don't remember the word in my nutrition coaching certification, which is a really, really great. I love that program
really. Oh, that's good.
because it's so down to earth. It's
Yeah.
so client focused, and it's not this extreme stuff. And
Okay.
there's a word they use, and I can't remember it, but it's very easy, especially for nutrition coaches, to get into it. They
Yeah.
call it. There's a word where you
Really.
become too. Yeah, where you become too obsessed about your food.
Oh,
Like
wow.
people who are really into clean eating. I'm
Yeah.
into clean eating myself, but
Sure.
it's like you don't want to become obsessed.
It can become a whole, even doing it to save my life or to live
Yeah,
well. Yeah, there
yeah.
comes a point where you have to say, all right, it can't control your
Mm-hmm.
enjoyment of the life you've been given, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, that's why in my coaching also, I
Hmm.
never tell people, okay, you can't have sweets and you can't
Yeah.
have this and you can't have that.
Yeah, I'm
You know?
relieved about that because
Yeah.
I still like sweets now. Yeah,
Yeah, like I've told the
that's all the
story. I've done this reel also. This client who was like, she's like, yeah, I have to cut out all sugar. But I think there was the guilt which she had. She's like, I have to cut out all sugar. And I'm like, you don't have to cut all the sugar. You can just have
right.
2 treats a week. And she's like, no, I have to cut out sugar. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, fine. You want to cut out sugar? Cut it out. But if you feel the need to have it, you just remember Priya said you can have it 2 times because
Yeah.
I don't want the guilt.
Right.
It's very easy for us women to feel
Yeah.
guilt.
Oh, yeah.
We have too much baggage.
Yeah.
Most of us have too much baggage, and
Yeah.
guilt is a huge thing. So I think grace, freedom, all of
Yeah.
that has to come together, and that's the thing about having a balanced, healthy life.
Yes.
You
Exactly.
know.
And someone to help you walk through it like yourself,
Mhm.
because you're
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, now, what does taking care of yourself look like now? Well,
Yeah.
you've kind of told me a
Yeah.
little bit, but if there's anything else you want to say.
Sure. I mean, for me, it was even making the decision to stop a very fulfilling job that I loved for a doctor I
Hmm.
loved to say, I need less pressure, less stress.
Uh-huh.
And now I have a job that I have a day and a half off in a week that I've never had in my adult life. Is that
Hmm.
an impact elsewhere for our home? Sure. But you
Hmm.
know what? I'm so grateful. And that was just a big step, but it was something I
Hmm.
was ready to do. So I think it's just listening and being aware and making
Hmm.
changes as they arise in the appropriate time,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
peace and joy and not be
Mhm.
overwhelmed, because we have enough overwhelm in our lives.
Yeah.
The things you
Yeah.
can control. Sometimes we can't,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything about food, movement, sleep, stress
Yeah.
that you approach differently now?
Mm.
Any of those?
But it's funny, in the last 2 years, I had a hysterectomy in August 2024. And going into that, I got back into, working out a little bit and changing the diet to really try and get my body ready. And it's been hard the last 2 years since then, because things have changed in my body between hormones and all
Hmm.
that. So realizing that, okay, I have to make a more intentional effort to say, oh, I do need to make sure I'm getting good sleep. And I do need to, if I'm
Hmm.
going to enjoy some food, I better move. Like, it gets harder to maintain the things that we used to
Hmm.
be able to do more easily. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I think you just have to figure out what you need to do to support your body. And again, I think I'm
Hmm.
seeing for myself maybe some long-term impact of that treatment years ago.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
just trying to walk through those things and um, realize things are different, but they can
Hmm.
still be really good.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Yeah.
So, what's something small that used to feel unimportant before, but now it feels like a big deal to you?
I think this is going to be an obvious one, just time with family and time with grandkids
Hmm.
and I'm watching my daughters raise their kids. And I remember certain things that I'll say, I know you get tired of me saying this, but it's because I wish I could have done it different for you. And so I'm just grateful to have time to clearly just be here with
Yeah.
them, but just to see them grow and to realize the gift of life. And you
Hmm.
said the word earlier, gratitude. I'm just very
Hmm.
grateful, and
Hmm.
try and live that out and express that and how I care for the people around me, from work to church to
Hmm.
family.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think
Hmm.
that was easy to take those things for granted, and now I try not to.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think when people who've gone through this diagnosis of cancer or any condition, and I think it's generally cancer, which is like, okay, it could be life threatening
Yes.
when you start valuing,
Yeah.
life more,
Yeah.
life and
Sometimes
relationships.
I feel like, should I be doing better? Should I be doing more? And I'm like, I have to trust God with, I'm doing what I
Hmm.
think is the best, but trying to be more intentional along
Hmm.
those lines. And a lot of it
Hmm.
stems, as you said, from that
Hmm.
challenge, that challenging
Hmm.
time. Sure.
Hmm. 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 So, if you could say one thing to a woman who's scared of a diagnosis, of her
Yeah.
body, of the unknown, what would
Yeah.
it be?
Well, it'll be a sentence. I hope that's all right. Because it's hard to
That
say
is
just one
fine.
thing. First of all, there's always, always hope. You just have to decide that you're going to hang on to that. And it's okay to think on the fear and to acknowledge fear and to walk through it, but you can't sit down and take a bath in it. You have to keep moving
Mhm.
forward. But the biggest thing is, there's always hope, even if it's just in the choices you make day to day. No matter what
Mhm.
the outcome or what you're facing, there is hope. And don't
Mhm.
give up hope, because this may have come from a movie, but I saw the
Mhm.
words before I realized it might have been a movie quote that, the only thing greater than fear is hope. And in my
Mhm.
journey, that was the truth. It was finding
Mhm.
things to do that, little by little, I started seeing, okay, I was hoping I'd have hope, but okay,
Mhm.
this is
Mhm.
giving me hope. And then
Mhm.
hope it gives to other people. There's always
Mhm.
hope.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and there's also the thing of, the sphere of influence. So
Hmm.
you have what you can control,
Yes.
what you wish you could control, what you have absolutely no control over.
Yeah.
And we have a choice, but like you didn't have a choice about getting cancer. That was not a
No,
choice, right? And
no.
if it was a choice, you would have said no,
I said,
right?
no, thank
Everyone
you.
would say no.
I don't wish
Yeah.
that choice on anyone. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are things we can control, and
Yeah.
that's what we have to focus on.
Yeah. One of my husband's friends, the time when I was so sick, he said, "Why you? Why you of all people? You're too nice. You're too nice." I said, "Thank you, but we live in a fallen world. Like you said,
Yeah.
you could cross the street and have an issue, and I wouldn't
Hmm.
choose cancer, but I am grateful for the lessons it taught me.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and just starting with just one day at a time. Yeah.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you told me your faith helped you a lot. Can you
Yeah.
tell me how?
Sure. Um, my family was Christian. We grew up in a home where, we were in church growing up, and I was the kid that, oh, you're going with Sharon, it's fine. I was pretty easygoing. Um, so my faith ever since I was a child in believing, asking Jesus to forgive my sins, I've had that constant um, confirmation in my heart and mind that I know that He cares about me, He loves me, and I have a
Mm-hmm.
eternity is secure. And going through the cancer journey kind of made me think, when you hear cancer, everyone's talking about the cure, we need the cure. And that's wonderful. Like, yes, we
Mm-hmm.
want a cure.
Mm-hmm.
But I framed it in my mind as the ultimate cure that we need, though, is knowing that our eternity, when I die, when I pass from this world, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
cancer or something else, that's where my hope is. It's
Mm-hmm.
because of Christ, not because of anything I can control or not control.
Mm-hmm.
So that really helped me frame especially the second time, the choices I made.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me courage to realize, no, I don't want to make a foolish choice here and just be like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
doing anything. But
Yeah.
it gave me courage to say, I know where I'm going. I know where my hope is. And it taught me more about the power of God and how much He cares about us day to day, in the
Mm-hmm.
good and the bad and the ugly. That really, yes, I'd grown up knowing that, but when you walk through something like this, it
Mm-hmm.
really made my faith even more real, knowing that there's a living God who cares about me.
Mm-hmm.
And not because He brought me through and I'm here today, but it was in the
Mm-hmm.
hard moments when I realized He is here and He
Mm-hmm.
has a plan for
Mm-hmm.
my life. And if He allows this life to not go on long, I will be healthy and whole in heaven. That's the cure.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a different connotation.
Mm-hmm.
The cure with Christ is from sin.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this world with all the
Mm-hmm.
difficulties. We live in a fallen world. Well, there's hope for the future. So that just framed my choices.
Mm-hmm.
And even walking through the difficulty the first time, I knew there's a different way to look at it, and that
Mm-hmm.
helped.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how people go through these things without
Mm-hmm.
the anchor of faith.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing. And I hope this is going to provide some hope for anyone who is,
Yeah.
facing something like this for themselves or for a family member. I
Yeah.
really appreciate.
I'm honored, and it's been a privilege to be able to share and to be a part of this with you. So thank you for the gracious invitation. Yeah. And I wish you well.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for joining the group.
My pleasure. All right. I'll look forward to
Okay.
it. Take care,
Bye.
Priya. All right. Bye-bye.